2024, the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program was created to collect and preserve the stories and experiences of Florida's veterans and to recognize the state of Florida's military contribution throughout our nation's history. Through recorded interviews, the Florida Veterans History Program Oral History Collection acts as a living archive of first-hand accounts to capture the details of military service and the voices, memories, and reflections of the Floridians who served. The Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program is operated by the Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture's Florida Folklife Program. Together, we are proud to ensure that Florida's military history is preserved, honored, and shared. My name is Julian Duncan with the Florida Department of State, Division of Arts and Culture, Florida Folklife Program. Today is August 3rd, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. and I'm interviewing John K. Roberts in the Villages, Florida. Also present is Zachary Moreau. This interview is being conducted for the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program and will additionally be submitted to the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Good evening, Mr. Roberts.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good.
Glad to hear it. So to begin, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, your life growing up, when and where you were born?
I was born in New Albany, Indiana, which is in the southern part of the state, just across the river from Louisville, Kentucky, Ohio River from Louisville. And younger years on a farm, cows, pigs, chickens, and 25-acre farm, which is still vacant today, sold in '62. And moved to a small town, Georgetown, Indiana, where I went to grade school and high school. And from there, went to college, Vincennes, Indiana, on the Illinois border. And was recruited out of college with two of my friends to do design work on the F-4 Phantom at McDonnell Douglas aircraft.
What did you major in college that led you into that?
Mechanical and architectural drafting. And so we went to St. Louis and worked there about a year, and on the F-4 Phantoms. And they were changing from the F-4. They were having too many of them shot down, and they were kind of on the sly building a replica or the early version of the F-15. And they already had a crew for design on that, so we were turned into our draft boards, and all 45 guys in the room got draft notices on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to total. So.
And what kind of company were you working for? Was this a contractor you were working for when you were working on the F-4s?
No, it was McDonnell Douglas.
Okay.
They had 50,000 employees right then.
Well, how did it feel getting your draft board notification? Had you considered a military career at that point?
No, not really. I mean, at that time, you weren't stupid. Everybody, if you were physically able, if you didn't go in, you were getting drafted. It was after the '68 Tet offensive, and they were needing a lot of people. And because we were working, as a defense contractor, we didn't really think much about it. We were pretty much living the good life, getting fat. And but wasn't too disappointed. Figured doing design and engineering work, I would end up behind a desk somewhere in the Army. That didn't happen.
Well, how did you find your way into the Marine Corps? Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Well, that's a pretty good story. Went back to my draft area. Draft board was in southern Indiana, so went back there and put us on a bus and crossed the river, and it was only 30 miles or so to Fort Knox, Kentucky. And so we had a bus load of my age people go down there, and they took us into a room. We'd already had all our tests and everything, and so we were qualified. And when they had us line up on a line, and a Marine recruiter came from a back room and went up and down the line asking for one volunteer, being the best military branch in the world. And we all sat there, nobody breathed for about 5 minutes while he talked. And then he just walked out of the room, and we felt pretty relieved. And the lady behind the glass in the front of the room said, everybody can sit down. She will, in a few minutes, start calling everyone by their, in alphabetical order. And me being Roberts, I sat in the back of the room and propped my feet up, and the first thing she said was Roberts. And I looked around the room, and everybody looked around the room at me, and I'm thinking that there has to be people here with a name that starts before Roberts. But I went up to the glass, and the lady slid a piece of paper under the glass, and it big red letters about that tall said USMC. And I slid it back, and I said, "You're kidding me." And she looked over my shoulders, and I looked over my shoulders, and there was a Marine on both sides. They took me back down the hall to where the recruiter went, and he immediately swore me in to the Marine Corps and said I'd be in Parris Island the next morning. So that's how I got into the Marines, and they weren't too eager to give me information, but it turned out they were allowed to draft the highest person in the room, highest education. And I had 2 years of college, and evidently that was the highest education in the room. And I say in my book, so my college education is already paying off. I'm getting the good jobs.
So were you on the bus to Parris Island the very next morning?
No, the two guys that were standing behind me in line when I got the notification put me in their car, drove me back to Louisville. There was a plane sitting there on the runway with the ramp up. They walked me all the way up the ramp, and there was a pretty stewardess at the top of the ramp, and she said, "Come on in and find a seat." And I turned the corner, and the plane was full of people my age, all looking like this. And I joined them. They flew us to Atlanta, and they took us into a back room where the Georgia State Police kept us company in case somebody decided they'd rather stay in Atlanta rather than go to Parris Island. And we were all given a dime and told to call our mothers and tell them we're proud to be United States Marines. And then they put us on a bus, took us to Parris Island. But they took us kind of a normal thing. They took us through the gate at 2 a.m. when everybody was exhausted, and you didn't know where you were, didn't know where you came from, but there was some happy DIs ready to throw us off the bus and get us started in our new career.
And what was that adjustment like? I mean, getting up the bus.
Shock.
Yeah.
We were all shocked. They had us line up on the yellow footsteps like everybody says, and run us right in to get our nice long 20-year-old or 18-year-old haircuts removed. We all walked out bald, and we all looked the same. Just some of us were darker than others. But that was basically the only difference between us new guys that had come in there. And there wasn't anybody cocky or anything. We were all pretty much exhausted, and they would spend the first day scaring us to death.
Well, and what was your boot camp experience like for the rest of was it 10 weeks or 12 weeks?
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't, in my book, I didn't really write about it because anybody that's been in boot camp, in the Marine boot camp, knows exactly how it is. They have it planned to the T, and anybody that hadn't been there wouldn't believe it anyway. It was exhausting. Constantly, when they had you jump up in bed, whatever late night it was, they said sleep, you were asleep. And when they 4 o'clock or whatever in the morning, they'd throw those metal cans down there to wake everybody up, and you better be up on the line within a few seconds. You had a few seconds to take a shower, a few seconds to brush your teeth, and they showed you how to do everything. Something that really surprised me was, why would they need to show us how to brush our teeth? Why would they need to show us how to tie your shoes? And that's where I found out that not everybody grew up in very good families. It taught you how to do everything you needed to know by the time you were 18 or 20 years old. And they wanted you to do it a certain way, so we did everything the way they told us. And you were in trouble if you didn't do everything that way. But they wanted to know exactly what you were going to do, if you were going to go on your right foot, because on marching you start with one foot, and everybody starts with one foot. So it's a very interesting educational experience, because there's people that didn't know how to do things. And I'm still finding that out today, that how can you go through all these years and not know how to do things? But they taught us.
So how do you feel that experience shaped you by the end of boot camp? Did you feel like a different person? Did you feel like you would grow in some way?
Well, we were a lot stronger.
Yep.
Anybody that was fat was a lot less fat. We thought we literally, not figuratively, we literally thought we could walk through walls. I felt like I could walk through a concrete wall, had no doubt. Of course, I'd have been unconscious by the time I found out I couldn't, but, I don't think you want to mess with anybody that just got out of boot camp.
So at the end of that experience, trying to think how to. Yeah, I want to ask it this way. Do you feel like that training, did you feel like when you got to Vietnam, did you feel like that training, did you rely on that training? Was that, how did that prepare you for Vietnam? Did you feel prepared for?
There's one thing that was just completely clear in my mind. When we got out of boot camp, physically and mentally, we didn't think we could ever be pressed any harder. We thought that was it. Then we went to ITR and Infantry recruit training in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And it wasn't as hard mentally, but it was harder physically, when we just thought we'd done as hard physical work as we could. Then we went to Pendleton. Well, we had a month leave after ITR, and then we went to Camp Pendleton in California and started climbing those desert mountains. And we thought we couldn't be worked any harder there, even though we thought boot camp and ITR. So another month in Pendleton, and then we went to Vietnam. And the first thing I thought was, we haven't been worked hard enough. Because all we did, in Vietnam, we were in the field the whole time. We did, you'd sleep every other hour. If you got 4 hours a night, that was a good night. But there was never a good night, because there was always shooting and shelling over there, bombing over there. So it was never, and there was very few. It was like when we stopped, I was a point man. When, if I can step back a minute, when I got to Vietnam, they sent us to our rear area, which was, for me, was LZ Baldy, Landing Zone Baldy, south of Da Nang, about 30 miles. And first night there, we were hit with machine gun fire from across which was a real shock to us boys, right? It just came from the real world, and we didn't have rifles, we didn't have anything. We were in the Baldy area, but we had nothing. Next morning, bright and early, we were lined up to get our M16s, and if you were lucky, yours didn't have blood on it. They were not new ones. And of course, you had to take everything apart. You had to clean everything. You got ammunition, and you would fill your magazines, and which things you learned in boot camp and ITR. And then after like the second day, again, my book is about always getting volunteered. When they say never volunteer, you don't have to worry about it. Somebody's going to volunteer you. And they took me, one other guy, to go to see the major, and the major said, sending you back to Da Nang for more training, which is just what we wanted after a few months of training, was to go for more training, because our unit wasn't in, so they didn't have anything for us to do but fill sandbags. So we kind of thought that was kind of fun that we were going to go back. Now we had rifles and ammunition and grenades, and so two of us went back, and they went through landmine booby trap training. We didn't know what for. I found out after 4 days. But so we got to blow up things, and that was fun. We go to the South China Sea. The commander there, I forget what rank he was. He was really good to us because he was trying to keep us from getting killed. So you'd have to crawl through in the dark sometimes, in the daylight other times, climb through barbed wire, and you would set off a flare which would burn you. Or light explosives around you, and then at nighttime you couldn't go very far without setting off a booby trap, but that's what we were supposed to do. And after they sent us back to our units, I went back to see the major, and he told me, "You're the new point man for first squad, uh, first platoon," and he told the other guy.
Can you explain what a point man, what the job entails and how you got it?
Well, by taking the booby trap, what you're going to be doing as a point man is looking for booby traps. So that's why we were there. The other guy was made a backup man for a point man. So I went now with them. Then our unit came in. So first squad lieutenant. Well, he was the lieutenant over first, second, and third squads, but I became his backup man for his point man in the first squad, and he told me that he's ready to leave, and he's not. You don't want to learn too much from him because he's not paying enough attention. Just learn all you can from him. You might be backup man for a week. I was backup man for 3 days, and I saw him walk down the hill, get on the helicopter, and leave. So I became the point man after the 3rd day. I don't know if he was told he could leave or he just decided it was time for him to leave. So I liked the idea that I was in control of me. But of course, you had to do this because you were looking at the ground. You were looking for booby traps. The backup man's job was to make sure nobody's around me. I'm looking for booby traps. By 69 were well hidden. They were a lot better at hiding booby traps than we were at finding them, but I was supposed to find them, and I learned how to blow up things so when we find unexploded ordnance.
What kind of booby traps were you looking for? What were some of the signs that you would look for? And
you look for something out of place or the dirt disturbed. Now the old bungee sticks, where you had little dirt on it and you'd step and fall through, and they still had those, but there were so many explosives that most of the stuff that I encountered were explosives. You would look for tripwires that were barely visible, but you would do night patrols. There was no way to see a booby trap at night.
Jeez.
And you walked one step at a time, and everybody, my squad, normally we had 8 people. 13 was a full squad, but we only had that for a few hours and the whole time I was there. And so everybody stayed back because if you hit a booby trap, you don't want to wound and kill everybody behind you. But the backup man needed to be fairly close to me so he could look out ahead of me, because it wasn't my job to look up or look behind me. It was always to look in front and look for dirt, twigs, especially wires. Did find some. I missed one. In that case, it was a bad area. My lieutenant actually went with me. Usually he didn't. I would do it by myself. You go to a new hill where you would dig foxholes for your night patrols. First squad would do a day patrol. Second squad would do an afternoon patrol. The third squad would do the night patrol, and then the next day you change it. So you don't do 2 morning patrols in a row. You would change it every day. And So in most cases, when we go and say we're going to be on that hill tonight, then I would go ahead of it and I would look for booby traps. And one time the lieutenant said it was a bad area, and we would both go, and we went all over that because it was supposed to be heavily booby trapped. We were very observant on it, but we did miss one. And the next morning that took out most of the squad, and one was killed. And it was his first day in the field. So 2 of us were not wounded in that one. But we went on. As soon as they dropped us some extra people, we continued on the next day doing exactly what we were doing every day. Night patrols were the worst. And in the rainy season, you were getting soaked. And you couldn't wear ponchos because it made too much noise. You had to listen for every little thing that wasn't a raindrop. And at night, like I said, you would get maybe 4 hours of sleep if you were lucky. But every time you stopped during patrol during the day, say, as soon as you stopped for a 10-minute break, everybody was asleep except for me, the point man. I needed to be on guard, and maybe the tail end Charlie. But we start out again and would just continue. The lieutenant would tell the platoon, the squad leader, and sometimes me, which direction, where we were going to go. Go down this hill, end up over there, go across over there, come down here, come back up the mountain over here. And you would follow that as close as you could. Sometimes it didn't make sense when you were actually the person doing that. And maybe you would deviate a little bit, which could get you blown up by U.S. forces, if you're in the wrong place.
Oh. Now, you mentioned that when you would find a booby trap, you would disarm it. What was kind of the protocol for how do you disarm something like that? What did that look like?
If it was something like a grenade, something like that where you hit the tripwire, you'd just blow it up, just put another grenade beside it, get everybody back. But if it was a hole with a bungee stakes or something like that in it, then you would clear everything off of it and just mark it. And if it was something that maybe it would have a explosive in it, you'd have to blow that up. But we had C4 we carried, and you'd use that to blow up. So that's one of the things you learn to use in landmine booby trap. Of course, that was the fun part, blowing up sand dunes on the South China Sea. And at least one day the commander said that he was going to look at the pretty mountains, and if we went into the water, he wouldn't see us. So everybody stripped naked and jumped into the South China Sea for about a half hour, and until he told us he was going to turn around. We all got out, put our clothes on, and continued with the day.
It's not an experience many people have. I like that. That's fun. Those patrols sound really intense.
Oh, dude.
How did you psychologically prepare or psychologically come down from, I would just see adrenaline, I would imagine. Like what did you do to prepare for these patrols, and what did you do on the back end when you were done with one to come down from it?
Well, the squad leader would get with me if I wasn't part of it. Usually the lieutenant would just get with the squad leader and tell him, and then he would tell me. But sometimes if it was a more detailed one, we would both go to the lieutenant, and he would tell us. And so I would spend, say I know I'm going to do this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's going to be a 4-hour patrol, and then I'd get to where the best vantage I had and look at every little part of it that I could see, and normally be scared to death. It wasn't very few times you weren't scared to death. You usually didn't think you were going to live to tomorrow anyway, especially on the night patrols. But you knew you were going to go down there. You knew that 2nd platoon was over there, 3rd platoon was over there. You had 3 platoons in every company you had 3 squads in every platoon. So you didn't want to go where those other platoons were because they're doing the same thing you're doing. So you didn't want to, we actually did a couple of times and almost got shot. Um, but so you know you've got to do this, and you know that the Viet Cong is, they're over here, they're on that mountain, they're watching every move we make. Fortunately, they didn't snipe at us very often because they were usually higher than we were. And so, and one thing I always, from this experience, what I always hated in movies, if it's a war movie, everybody's got their rifles slung over their shoulder. They're talking, they're joking, they're just juking around. On this, you never talked. You whispered at the most. Hand motions is what you did even in the daytime. At night, you definitely didn't. You didn't talk. It was hard to do hand motions. You kind of had to feel your way in. But any sounds you made, and so I'm watching for every stick and every rock. And one night on a night patrol, I actually slipped and went rolling down the mountain, and until I became airborne, and I'd rode off a cliff. And I felt, the seconds, split seconds are like a lifetime, and I'm like, but I could hear all my stuff that wasn't supposed to be making noise rolling down behind me. My helmet was off my head, and they were all rolling down the mountain with me. And all of a sudden I'm airborne, and then I go face first in fairly soft dirt, I was lucky. And so by the time they got down to me, they were, I had made a little joke when you're not supposed to talk. They were quietly calling my name. They didn't know where I was. It's pitch black. You don't use a flashlight. And finally, when they got close enough, I said, "Watch that first step." And they all started laughing. But we were just barely out of the perimeter, and the lieutenant's yelling at us up there on the hill because he can hear all of us, everybody laughing. And we had to wait till I got some breath back in my body before we could continue on. And we eventually made it back up the mountain, but scared to death. But even in the daytime, because they're out there, they're always watching you. And we were just shocked when we found out sometimes how close people were.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still wondering about, you kind of touched on this. You said, hand motions and all that during the daytime. How do you communicate at night? How did you, I can't see the hand motions. You don't want to talk. How did you communicate?
Yeah, it was me, like the backup man would like have his hand on my pack or whatever, my fighting gear. If you're doing patrols, usually you just your fighting gear, your rifle, your ammunition, your grenades, things like that, flares if you happen to need that. But you would have to do it close, and then once you got apart, which we did a couple times, you didn't know where anybody was. You're out there by yourself now in the pitch black, especially if it's cloudy. There's no sun, no moon or anything. It is that dark.
Wow.
And you're doing a 4-hour patrol, a 4-mile patrol or 4-hour patrol in the mountains on a place you've never been before. And anything, any kind of a trap would be easy to set out there. Now, I always figured if you did a night patrol and sometimes you would do ambush patrols where you would go out and set along a trail and make no noise for 4 hours. And you sit there and hold your breath and you're listening for every little sound, every cricket that fell off a leaf. You were so in tune to that, and you figure if we're here and a squad or a platoon comes walking down here, if you ambush them, you're probably going to kill 2 to 5 of them. They're going to kill 1 or 2 of you. But on the other hand, if you're walking and they got their ambush patrol, they're going to kill 2 to 5 of you. You're going to kill 1 or 2 of them. It was never good numbers. And being out in the mountains, there was always the B-52s would be dropping bombs way over there. One of the things that really scared me was the Puff the Magic Dragon, because you got that C-130 and it's shooting thousands of rounds a minute, and we always call it red rain because it would come down, it would hum. You'd hear the C-130 and you would hear, and you would just see this line or square of red rain come down. And that's just the not the regular bullets. And that's the one so they can see where they're going. And you don't want to be anywhere near that. You wouldn't want that to happen coming in your direction because there's a bullet every square foot. You know, it's unsurvivable. So when that happened, you got way down in that hole and hope they didn't get near you.
Jeez. And that's friendly.
And yeah,
Friendly.
I think we normally got shot at more by friendly fire than we did by enemy fire.
Wow. Interesting. That's not something I knew about on that conference.
Yeah, the bombers and that, you know, and all that you had to worry about, and it was normally just completely quiet, but you were completely scared the whole time, and like the Forrest Gump movie, and all of a sudden the bullets are flying everywhere. That's quick. You know, it comes on quick and it goes and it ends quick. And if you're lucky, you're sitting there and you don't have any holes in you.
What kind of relationships did you form with your squad mates while you were doing this work?
Well, I don't think I was normal. I think it was normal not being normal. I was not the toughest guy in the world. But when you went to Vietnam, you didn't have any friends. They were all new people. And I decided that I was going to be the toughest guy there. Nobody wanted to mess with me. Of course, most of them could whip me, or half of them could anyway. But I was going to have them thinking that nobody could whip me. So I stayed to myself mostly. And I mean, my job was out here anyway. Everybody was behind me. So we all went by, basically everybody went by nicknames, except they always called me John. So I think I was the only one without a nickname. Well, they might call me Point Man, or Point. But I just acted like you didn't want to be around me. I had this, most of the time I had this best friend named Philly. I don't know, he was from Philadelphia, but I don't know, have no idea what his name was, but he was my best friend, and was a black guy. And he was in my fire team. You got 4 people in a fire team, so we had 3 fire teams basically most of the time, sometimes 2 fire teams. And if they told me to take my fire team, I would take my 3 other guys and do whatever it is they told me to do. And sometimes it was go out there and you expect to get killed. But Philly was always there with me. But my backup man was the one in my foxhole. You would dig a hole for 2 people every night. And my backup man would be in the hole with me. Philly and Slim would be in the other hole of my fire team. So that was just a way you were trained. You trained as a platoon, a squad, a fire team. And you wanted to know what everybody was going to do and how they were going to do it. You had to trust everybody.
Did that feel like a heavy responsibility, being the person who was doing your job, being the point man, checking for the booby traps, and knowing that other people are relying on, and I guess everybody's relying on everybody for their own safety? But did your job in particular feel heavy? Did that feel like a lot of responsibility?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was most likely to hit a booby trap. I was most likely to walk into a ambush, which was the eventual end. But sometimes they let the point man and the backup man by, and then they open up on the next people, because if it's just your squad, usually you don't have the lieutenant. He doesn't usually go on patrols, but sometimes he does. But you always have the squad leader and the radio man. You want to get those out. Unless you have a weapons squad with you that has machine guns, you don't have machine guns. Of course, everybody has an M16 except one guy in our squad's carried an M14. A little more firepower, a little more distance. So we were, it was, I was most likely to hit a booby trap if there was one, So you got that booby trap, landmine and booby trap school was definitely worth the extra money. So I didn't step on any booby traps.
So with these other people in your fire team and in your squad and that you've been with, you told me kind of a funny story earlier about falling down the hill and making a joke when you got up. Are there other what was kind of like your humor like? Were there moments where you all joked around? Were there
Yeah. Again, even when we were in the perimeter, we would move to a new perimeter and then one squad would take off. So we had two squads normally there at one time. There was very little humor, and when people got together, like I mentioned about hitting the one guy hitting the booby trap, you shouldn't gather in one place.
Yeah.
And that made a lot of people go to the hospital. But people, I always hear the stories about, oh yeah, we joked around, we had a good time. Very few funny times, but there was one story where the lieutenant, and we had a good lieutenant. We could complain, but we had a good lieutenant, and he decided he was going to do a special patrol. Well, special patrol meant we have to do an extra patrol. Not that you eat very little, you have your little C rations, and you work all day. It's exhausting, and you don't get much sleep, and the lieutenant wants to do a patrol, and you're not happy about that. So it's our squad and the lieutenant. So we go down the mountain and we go down to a river and we go along the river, and it's my job to look in front of me. I never look back. I can tell when people are walking. I can tell which one in the squad that's his footsteps. And there again, you're trying to make no sound at all. And rather than walk on the paths, you try to walk off the paths, because the booby traps are most likely on the beaten path. So I walked down along the river, and there was a big rock sloped into the river, probably 10 feet across. And it was smooth, and I climbed up on the rock. It was probably 2 feet stepping up on it. And I went across, and all I'm doing is looking ahead of me. And I go 10 feet over, and I step down looking for booby traps, and I step a few steps waiting for the backup man to do the same thing. Then I move up a little bit more, and then I hear the third guy, and I move a little more, then I hear the fourth guy, and then I hear the fifth guy, and the sixth guy is the lieutenant. And I'm still looking out like this, and I hear this sliding, and there's a splash. And that was one of those rare times when I had to turn around and look. That's about the time the lieutenant's head was coming up above the water. And he's looking straight at me, and I'm trying to hold my laugh. And I immediately turned back around. Okay, I'm here, I'm on patrol, I'm guarding while he's being pulled out of the river. And so we continue on with patrol. This is just a normal patrol. And they passed the word up for me to cross the river up here. And I passed the word back that it looks better up further. It looks more shallow up further. They passed the word back, cross the river here. I passed the word back. It still looks better if we go further. Third time they passed the word up. So we really ought to go down further before we cross. I passed the word back. It comes back. It's an order, cross here. I get my rifle and my ammunition, and I'm holding them above my head, and I'm in chest deep water crossing that river. And then I hear all this laughing, and I look around, there's my whole squad with the lieutenant in the middle like this, and he says, I think we'll cross down here. And I thought, okay, that was payback. So I met them down there where they crossed. Nothing was ever said after that. Yeah, big funny. So, but there were very few fun times. There were very few. My backup man once came to me half giggling, and like I said, I let everybody know that I was the toughest guy around. Now, we had this big black guy who carried the M79, Now, I trusted him with my life behind me, but he was a big guy. He was he was obvious. He didn't have to act like he was a tough guy. But I had I had found a deep hole, a dug deep hole. And they used their rifle straps to lower me down. It was about 10 feet deep, I think, about 15 by 15. Obviously cut for some reason. So by the time I got to the bottom, I had to feel around for booby traps with my feet first. And then I had to get down on my hands and knees and feel it, because it was like soft dirt. So I had to feel all this dirt, and then I could see something dug into the side, and they handed me down a entrenching tool, and I ended up digging out 2 cases of SKS rounds, which is a single shot Vietnamese rifle, Russian really, or Chinese. Anyway, full of ammunition. This was a good find. So we called it in, and they were going to send another squad to meet us and dig out this, and then bring a helicopter to take the ammunition out. So I'm down there, and while I'm in the bottom with no way out, we hear Chu Hoi off in the distance. Somebody wants to surrender. Well, we never had taken any captives till that time. Everybody got excited. They went running down there. Stupid thing to do. The more stupid thing to do was leave me in the hole. All I could think of is somebody's going to throw a grenade in. I had no place to go, and I had to dig hand hoes out to dig my way out of that. If I was ever crazy, I was crazy. I was crazy then. I got out, finally got out, scared to death. I'm sure my heart was beating like 300 a minute. I got out, grabbed my rifle. I went running down there to where everybody else was. And they were so excited. They had some doctors, Vietnamese doctors, that surrendered. And they were all happy. They were all smiles. And I was crazy. I went nuts. I went from one end of the squad to the other, and I hit every one of them as hard as I could. I couldn't have been more mad. And then I got to the M79 guy who was just standing there like this. And then I went to Philly, my friend, and I knocked him down. And then I just went up on the hill and sat down. And Philly comes up there and he's just giggling. And I'm still just biting my tongue. I'm just so mad. He says, John, I really thought you were crazy till you didn't hit Joe or whatever his name was with the M79. I said, Joe would have killed me. He said, no, he wouldn't have killed you. He'd have beat the hell out of you. So after that, Philly didn't see me as the toughest guy in the world, because he knew I didn't hit Joe. I could have hit him, but that would have been the last of my being mad. I would have been beat at that time. Anyway, so that was a little funny, but we didn't have many funnies.
Yeah. Well, what you mentioned sea rations, and you mentioned what was the food like in your experience? Was it pretty much just sea rations? Did you ever get a hot meal?
On the Marine Corps' birthday, we got a hot meal.
Okay.
In the middle of we were trying to go climb this mountain, and they brought hot food. We had steaks, baked potatoes.
All right.
And then they had a cold one, and it was full of beer and sodas. And you would think, you bunch of young guys, they'd go for that beer. We loaded our packs up with sodas. Nearly killed us for the next few days, because we just put way more weight than we were used to. Whatever, you get a soda. We had nothing. We would get, what they call it, we'd get special stuff from the Red Cross, where you would get some chewing gum or something, or you get some candy bars, and that was rare, maybe once a month. And that was a real treat, because all you have is sea rations. Fortunately, I liked the scrambled eggs and ham, and a lot of people didn't. I didn't like the spaghetti and meatballs, and a lot of people did. So I could always trade for my eggs and sausage most people found detestable. And I mean, whatever they came with that case, and they would bring us food every day. Once a day, the evening helicopter would bring food, and then but you didn't carry a bunch of food. You only had like a day's food in your pack. And when you did patrols, you didn't carry your pack unless it was just of weapons. And at night, you'd set up claymore mines, and you would get in your hole, and one person would sleep, and the other person would sit there listening to every little thing. And there was another funny moment that had no humor at all at the time. I can always look back at it. It's funny because I can still see the cartoon version of this. But we were on the top of a hill guarding. We had a weapons platoon with us at the time, which meant we had machine guns, we had mortars, and we were going to stay in this position for a few days. Normally we didn't do that. And we had a 105 recoilless rifle, so we had one squad would guard the 105 kind of on the point, and you had the lieutenant and platoon sergeants and other people from the rear, H&R people, who would be part of a bigger force, and you would have mortars set up there. So I just happened to be, it was our night to be up guarding the 105, and we were out from it on a point. It's kind of a gravel point. And so one of the guys in my FAR team was out a little bit past me. And this is almost kind of a safe place. So it was actually, weren't sure you were going to die that night. And so the guy on my FAR team heard a noise, and he thought it was VC coming up the hill. So he took a grenade and he took the pin out of it, and he waited to throw it. And the noise stopped. So he passed the word back for me to come up. So I crawled out there, pitch black. You didn't even know which way was dark. I mean, which way the hill was. And we listened, and we'd hear it every once in a while, and decided it was probably a rat. So told him to put as quietly as you could say it, much quieter than that. You're out in the dark. And told him to put the pin back in it. So feeling around, he couldn't find the pin. So I feel around, we couldn't find the pin. He's holding a live grenade. And finally decided we can't find the pin. So I got the radio, so I called the lieutenant telling that we're going to have to throw a grenade because we can't find the pin. And we thought we heard something that was probably a rat. So we got the approval. They passed the word around. We're going to throw a grenade. Don't everybody start shooting in all directions. So you don't want to throw it with the blade on it, even though it's kind of nice, because you don't know if it's going to blow up as soon as you do it. Usually you're supposed to have like 3 to 5 seconds. So don't pull the spoon off, count 1, 2, 3, and throw it. He pulled the spoon off. I could hear his jacket as he threw it, and then you immediately heard a thump, and you heard a bouncing back. There was a tree out there, evidently. And I dove, like I did like a cat, a back over that way. He dove that way, which happened to be the cliff. You could hear him sliding and yelling as he's going down the mountainside. And when I did my back over, it was like a Bugs Bunny cartoon or one of those. There was another tree. I immediately hit that tree head first. And I fell to the ground. I mean, it was like a almost knocked me out type hit. But I realized that the grenade is right there somewhere. So I start crawling as quick as I can. And I get down again. Okay, it should be going off. I do it again. I do it like 3 times. I tried to get further away. It never went off. So
Is it dud?
So yeah, it was a dud. So anyway, so I crawled away from it, and we stayed away from that area. We didn't know exactly where it was. And then in the morning, crawled back out to it and let the lieutenant know I'm going to put a grenade next to this grenade, so there's going to be 2 grenades going off. So we blew it up in the morning, and that was over. The other guy was all cut up and all from sliding down the mountain, and I had this big knot because I didn't have my helmet on at the time. I had this big knot right in the center of my head. Of course, I'm the tough guy, so I am not going to complain about anything. And but I actually in the first month, my boots were too tight, and I wore holes the size of quarters, where a normal overlap of a boot might be. So I wore it down to the bone, or to at least to the cartilage on both feet. And went to the corpsman, said, as long as your feet are getting wet, staying wet a long time, you have to keep them dry or we can't do anything. I'd bandage it, but still they were too tight. And one night we had the night patrol, or the night, forget the term, ambush patrol, which we were going to go set in the spot next to the river. Well, we had to have our feet in the river. And again, I didn't complain. I didn't go to the lieutenant. I went to the corpsman, and there wasn't anything he could do as long as we kept getting in the water. So we did sit there for 4 hours without moving, and time to go up. Squad leader says, okay, it's time to go back up the hill. Couldn't walk. I couldn't walk a step. My feet didn't work. So I had to go back, pass the word back to the squad leader that I could not walk. So I had to get 2 guys and put my rifle straps around my neck, and I held on to them, and they walked me all the way up to the mountain. We didn't say a thing. We got up there. Next morning, after we did our 1 hour of sleep, 1 hour awake, first thing I heard in the morning when people were starting to move around was Roberts up. What was the term? Or I think it was just up center Roberts. And that, by his voice, I knew I was in trouble. By then, I'd had my socks off, my feet had dried, I'd been able to put my boots back on. And went up the hill, and there was a lieutenant like that. He says, boots off. The squad leader, I'm sure, told the lieutenant, that's what he should have done. I didn't want him to do that, but I had to take my boots off and then my bloody socks off, and he ripped me one up one side and one down the other for destroying government property, and I could be court-martialed for this. I was a pretty good guy, but still 3 times I was there, I was threatened with a court-martial. But anyway, he told me, then there was a morning helicopter that morning, and he told me if I wasn't on that helicopter, I would be court-martialed by the time it took off, and it was getting ready. So I had to grab my gear, go back to my hole, grab my gear, run down there barefoot, get on that helicopter. And so there was another guy on the helicopter that he was in a different platoon. Were joined with another platoon that day. So I didn't know him before, but I was in boot camp with him. Other than him being in boot camp. And in boot camp, you don't talk either. You're told when you can talk. You might whisper. Even if you whisper and get caught, you're in trouble. But anyway, he was sick, so he was being medevaced. He had walked 14 miles the day before, was really sick in the heat and the dry and everything. So we got back to Baldy, and we had to walk from the helicopter up the hill to the hospital. So we walk up there, and he's really sick, and the helicopter pilot carried his gear. And by then, my feet were really hurting. They hurt, but I didn't let on while I was out in the field. But now that I'm in a safe area, they hurt. Made it to the hospital, and they put him in behind one curtain and me, and they take my boot, I'd already had my boots off, but I was wearing my socks up the hill. Take them off, and they're all bloody, and they start cleaning me up and scrubbing my feet and everything, and they give us a meal, and it was a hot meal. This was other than, I think it was before the Marine Corps' birthday, so it was my first hot meal, other than cooking your little tins of C rations. And so I laid there in my bed, and they wheeled him over, and we just laid there and talked. And he talked about, he was a nice guy. He reminded me of me when I wasn't being the baddest guy in the world. Wanted to go back home, marry his high school sweetheart, and that's all he wanted to do, get through there. Just a nice guy. We sat and talked, and he was sick. He couldn't eat his meal, and he gave it to me, and I could have ate 10 meals, and I ate his meal. And I fell asleep. We were just laying there talking. I fell asleep, and in the morning when I woke up, he was in that same position. His eyes were open, but he wasn't there. And so I just rode over, and I just was watching this guy, and I thought, this is what a dead guy looks like. Nice guy, going home. And so after a while, a nurse walked in, and she looks at me and looks at him and looks back at me, and she takes the sheet, pulls it over, and then she walks off. And later, 2 guys come and get him. And so as far as losing somebody, you know, because he was the first, but he was, I think, the worst. And so I got a dinner. I got 2 dinners. I got a breakfast and lunch coming on. No, it's actually, I think I even got a lunch and of real food. And the major, the hospital was where the Army was. Baldy was at this time was an Army base, and the Marines had a little position because you didn't have anybody in except a few people. For when our units came in, then we were down there with the Marines. But otherwise, there weren't many people in the Marine area. So the major comes up and says, we're supposed to get Overrun tonight. Can you walk? And I said, I guess I can walk. They gave me sandals. Said, get your fighting gear. I'm going to send a corporal up to get you. So I've been in the hospital less than a day, and thinking I had it made, and he comes up and gets me, and then he goes back to the Marine area and picks up a guy with a broken leg. Well, I can't run and he can't walk, so they put us in this Jeep, and we got a 50 caliber machine gun with us, and they take us down way out in front of the front lines, because everybody's back here at Baldy, and way over there is the BC and the little village and everything. He puts us right in the middle in a little hole in the rice paddy, and it had bags, sandbags around it, sandbags behind it, and a little bit of cover above. And neither one of us had loaded a 50 caliber since ITR, and he unloaded the 50 caliber and set it up in front of us. Said, "I'll come back if you're here in the morning. I'll come back and pick you up." And as far as we know, they were going to be overrun that night. Well, they're going to overrun us first before they overrun them. So it's getting dark by now. So we're working, trying to figure out how to load that 50 caliber. We got our M16s. I go out and put claymores out, crawl out there. Again, I can't really walk well. I definitely can't run. So if you can't run, you're staying here. If there's a battle, you're going to get taken out first. And about the time it got really dark, we both decided that, well, once the battle starts, there'll be more fire coming from behind us than from front of us. So we started taking sandbags, putting behind us, because our people are going to be shooting this way. So we loaded that thing, and I think both of us all night, our eyes were glued open, and we sat just, neither one of us got any sleep. We just listened for all night long. Fortunately, I'd got a good night's sleep the night before. And come morning, no battle, so they come down the Jeep and pick us up in the 50 caliber and take us back to the unit, not to the hospital, and says, "Take it easy today. We'll give you a new position tonight." Well, that's so much for the hospital duty. So they that night they put me and another guy. He wasn't the broken leg guy, it was another guy. Put us in a hole in the dump. Worst place in the world. If you could get a worse place than we'd been. So put us out there in the dump, and they had a big hole behind our foxhole, and I wondered what that was for. And after it got dark, I started hearing all this noise, and it was a tank, and they brought this tank and set it in there. And they brought the nozzle of the right now I can't think of the name of the tanks we used. Maybe anyway, they put the nozzle right between us. So we got this hole, and we got a tank, and they got the hose in the sides. So you've got a hole next to your head that's going to blast is going to come out when they shoot the gun. So the guy climbs out of the tank and says, well, wake us up if you hear anything. I said, if you shoot that thing, let us know first before it blows our heads off. So he said, yeah, we'll be asleep. So we're in the hole all night. We take turns sleeping. And there's always noises and things, stuff that's no good anymore, they throw out the dump. You have to keep your head down because it might be a grenade, it might be a tear gas container, it might be a big shell going off. And there was stuff making noise and banging all night long. And sometimes there were pretty big bangs. And so he would sleep, and then I would sleep, and then he had the last sleep, and it was starting to get a little bit of light in the distance, and the noises from the dump were getting closer and louder. And all I could think was the VC was coming through the dump. And every second it was getting louder, and it was just, you weren't even moving, and you're just looking out, trying to see into the pitch black, and it's getting a little bit lighter, and eventually I start seeing movement, and I'm all ready. And I'm looking, I'm trying to see a figure of a person, but I could see movement, and then it was doing this, and I thought, I'm just getting dizzy from having my eyes open, all night, and seeing the movement, and finally I'm going to wake him up, and I look over, and there's a rat about the size of a cat on his shoulder. And I take my barrel and I knock it off there, and I realize those are rats, millions of rats in the dump, which is why I am totally scared of, I can't think about rats without the hair coming up. And when somebody says, I think I got a rat in the house or something, and I can't take that. So as soon as they got light, the tanker left, and we were able to go back to the unit, and I went back to the major, and he said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm back from the dump. He says, okay, we'll find a place for you tonight. I said, I'm not going back in the dump. He said, what? I said, I won't go back I won't spend another night in the dump. He said, you're going to go against a direct order? If I give you a direct order? I said, sir, I will not go back in the dump. He said, well, I said, send me back to my unit. And he said, you're still in the hospital. I obviously wasn't in the hospital. So I said, send me back to my unit. He said, I can easily court-martial you for not going back to where I tell you to go. I said, I know, sir. Send me back to my unit. He said, you're not released from the dump, from the hospital. And I said, I won't spend another night. He looked at me, and then he looked at his paperwork on his desk and did all this and found one and signed it off. He says, get on that helicopter and get off my base. I went back to my unit. First thing I do when I get off is the helicopter is go back up the hill, and I hear Robert's up from the lieutenant. And I go back up there, and I'd take my boots off on the helicopter and let them hang out and dry. And the lieutenant said, boots off. I take my boots off. He looks at them, and I'm just holding my breath. He said, well, you've been laying around the hospital for 3 days. It's time you got back to work. I didn't say, well, I wasn't. I was just glad to be back out there. But when I left, I gave my helmet to a new guy that came in. His helmet strap was broke. Well, my helmet, I had found this gold ankh, Japanese little love symbol that was gold looking, and I put it on my helmet. And the lieutenant, he never ordered me, but he told me a couple of times, you're going to get shot. They're going to think you're the lieutenant. And I said, I want to keep it on there. He says, doesn't bother me. You're more likely to get shot than I am. Yours is brighter than mine. And then his bar. So I had the helmet with that ankh on there. That was my good luck charm. And so it was, the new guy had it. So I'm back and I'm the bad guy. I am bad. You don't want to mess with me. I'm looking for my helmet. I brought a new helmet back and I'm walking all around, and there I see the guy that's got my helmet. And you learn to use some language that you don't try to use in normal life when you get back. But I used that. I used all of it I could. And I took that helmet I brought back and I threw it at him, and he was like this, and he couldn't wait to give me my helmet back. And I put it on and I went back to my position. And so somebody else had taken my backup man had taken my point position. And I got back up and I said, I'm back as point. Anybody got a problem with that? Nobody had a problem. So I had my vacation back in the rear.
Well, I think we've heard, you said there were 3 times you almost got court-martialed, and you told us 2 of them now.
Yes, there was a third. There was the third. Oh, this one was just kind of silly. Well, it wasn't. You wanted to be different. Now, some of those platoons, they were allowed to grow mustaches. Okay, so our guys decided they wanted to grow a mustache. Our lieutenant didn't allow it. So we had a few guys come to us and say, go to lieutenant, we're going to grow mustaches. So me and the squad leader went to the lieutenant, asked what we're there for. Said, our squad's decided they want to grow mustaches. Lieutenant didn't even look up. He says, I don't allow mustaches. Sir, other units are allowed to grow mustaches, so we want to grow mustaches. He said, Corporal comes over, he says, call for a helicopter. I'm going to take the squad out. They're going to get court-martialed. Send them to the rear. And we said, can we hold on that for a minute? And we got the squad together, and we came back and said, sir, we've decided not to grow mustaches. He didn't even look up. He just went back what he was doing. We did not grow mustaches. So, but he did say that, he was going to court-martial us for.
You made it through. You made it through all 3.
So there was one other kind of funny in a past sense. It's the only one I can think of. We went on a really hard patrol, one of which I'd passed out once from heat prostration. They used most of their water pouring it on my head, kill me off. But it was a tough patrol, and I remember drinking water out of a water buffalo footprint. You're not supposed to do that. That's not good water. But it was water. And we were coming back. What was left of my rotten shirt was gone, my t-shirt. My pants was ripped up off to short shorts. Now, early in those pants lives, the zipper stopped working and the rear end wore out of them. So it was easy to follow me. It's like following a white-tailed deer. But all I had was my socks and boots on and what was left of my shorts, practically naked. This is why you don't have the media out there in the field with you. It does not look good. And at home. Well, it was so hot, and we had gone through this sugarcane field, and like corn, you get paper cuts, thousands of paper cuts. Every one of them hurts. 1,000 of them hurts 1,000 times. I was bleeding from head to toe, practically no clothes on. And there was a mud hole. And everybody was mad, everybody was tired, and everybody was hot. And they just started one after another just falling into that mud hole. And I was so mad, and with all the blood and everything, I just wouldn't do it. I was going to go like I was, naked and bloody. So we went up that hill, me and all the dwarfs, like mud babies behind me. And we walked back up, came back up, and, you know, tired and hot and dirty and bloody. And we got to the top, and the whole squad that was in the perimeter were lined up on the top with the lieutenant in the middle there standing like this. And I was just mad. And we're coming up, and of course I'm first. And I get up there, and I'm just like this close to the lieutenant who's standing there looking at me. I just want to hit something. It could have been the lieutenant. That would have been a real cool. But I was just so mad and so hot. And the lieutenant tells me stop. And I'm just standing there in front of him, just looking away from him. And he calls the corporal over. And everybody else is coming up now. They're all standing up, all these mud babies. And he said, call for supply, get some water, and get this man some clothes. And then he walked off. So they brought all this water, and they poured water all over everybody. And I'm sure it was a sight. And I don't know anybody in our unit that had a camera. I had one coming, but it was stolen in the rear before it got to us. So we didn't have any pictures of us in our La Naturale.
Just memories.
Oh, now we did once get the monsoons hit, and you had your like 2 little boxes of sea rations. Well, the helicopter stopped coming. Once you missed one meal, you were hungry because you worked that meal off in the morning or in the afternoon or in the night. And so you had your 2 meals when the rain started. Well, they were gone the first day. The next day, there wasn't any meals. The next day, there wasn't any meals. The helicopters couldn't get in, pouring rain, where you're wet. Once you get wet, I always remember this, once you get wet to the seat of your pants, you can't get any wetter. And you can't get any more miserable. And we were out there, and we were hungry. It's amazing how quick, when you use up all your energy, that you feel like you're starving to death. We tried bark off the trees, and we tried grass. Bark doesn't make you throw up, but grass does make you throw up. And there were no bugs, no insects, no snakes around where we were. No tigers that we always heard about up north that scared us to death. I always heard about a Marine getting drug off into the jungle, but there was nothing. And by the 4th day, the platoon sergeant asked for those that could still walk to do a patrol around our area, because otherwise everybody was too weak. So I think there were about 6 of us that followed the platoon sergeant. He was a big guy. He had some meat to lose anyway. And so we did one last patrol, and then the next morning there was a break, and the helicopter came in, and they picked us up, and we were cold because it was soaking wet, and it was just cold, you know. And in dry areas it was hot. So they picked us up, and they took us down the valley, and there was a recon unit that was recovering from a patrol or an incursion. And so there were about 20 of them, and they brought us, our 10 people, or how many it was. No, we had the whole platoon, so we had 30 people. Brought us down on the helicopter, and they put us out in the area, and the sun was shining, it was dry, and immediately everybody stripped off everything they had to get rid of all that wet and cold, and they brought pallets of food. And we crawled in there like animals, and we ripped stuff open, and we grabbed stuff and got the tops off, and we just threw it down, and then everybody threw up. Then we started all over, and then we would heat it and eat just a little bit, but it was, and you had all the recons standing around just watching all these naked animals on their hands and knees, just throwing down food. And recon people have seen things, but I'm sure this is something they remembered for the rest of their lives. So,
did you lose weight while you were over there?
Oh, well, you pretty much started losing it in boot camp.
Mm.
You never gained any weight, which is something when you look at the military now and you see all these bodybuilders out there, you see any pictures of the people in Vietnam, you see a bunch of skinny kids.
Mm.
And they look like, and say, how could they even carry their packs? And you can go look at these pictures of them. They do not look anything like, or we didn't look like anything like uh, the military now. You know, they're wearing knee pads and all these extra things. And we were, I, I never heard of other people mention this, but when we went over, you had to wear your flak jacket. They had fiberglass kits. They didn't have the big metal plates or anything. You were walking up and down mountains carrying all your gear. It was just too much. It wasn't like you went back to the area at night. No, you went to wherever you went to that day, and then you went on, then you went here, and you went there. We only went back. I only went back to the rear twice. Once for the feet, and once when I got shot. So anyway, I'm sorry, I forgot where I was. What were we talking about?
Oh, you're talking about equipment, and I'd asked you if you
Oh
lost
yeah, so
weight.
we had our flak jackets, and that was required we wear our flak jackets. Well, it was like within the first week, somebody told me, he said, you're going to kill yourself carrying around that weight with those flak jackets. We just cut them out. So cut all the flak. Wore the jacket, but it never had any plates in it. So a grenade's going to go into your body. But yeah, I learned that real quick. You didn't, and I don't really hear that from other people about, oh yeah, we had our flak jackets. Yeah, we had our jackets too. We just didn't have any protection in them until that finally wore out. Like I said, you know, you were supposed to even have that when you were going on patrols, and I went to where Noah didn't even have a shirt left on the way back.
So you brought it up now. Just a second ago, you mentioned when you got injured, and this was, I think you told me when we talked the other day, that this was one of the last major casualty weeks of the war.
Well, yeah, someone in the hospital actually said, well, that I was the first person shot on the second day of the last big casualty week of the war. I mean, when I found out 2 weeks later, when I was in Japan, that when they said that, well, everybody in my squad was either killed or wounded, right after I got on the helicopter. So it was really, you know, back then we had 100 killed a week. And in our area, in the I Corps, was the biggest part. We had 26-something thousand killed in that area. When you look at the others, a lot less, but you know, to make 55, but when 26,000 out of just one area, there was, on my last patrol, if you don't mind going into that, where we actually had I won't go into that one, a bad firefight where we lost 3 people. That was on the same hill where we had the 105, and they decided they were going to move us out the next morning. Well, most of the unit moved out that day, and we ran out of time. We all thought we were going to get on helicopters and leave, and so they told us to burn all the extra supplies. So we had this big bonfire going less than 50 yards away on top of this mountain, and all of a sudden the VC are coming and dismantling our bonfire because we got all kinds of weapons and explosives and stuff in there. So there's since we've moved everybody else out, instead of having our foxholes out here, fighting positions, the Marines say, we all had to get in to this little rise, and because we still had a mortar there and the 106 on the hill. One squad still had to be up there with the 106. So we're like here, and so we didn't have hose. We didn't have dime dig hose. So we just got laid down in the elephant grass. It might be high or it might be 10 feet high, but here it was beaten down. So we didn't have anything but elephant grass. So they put our squads on this side, third squad's on this side. So, and the bonfire is over here. So they towed the lieutenant told 3rd Squad to get up and chase the VC off the hill, get them away from the bonfire. And when they got up, 3 mortars came in on top of them, which was 50 feet from me, except the little rise, I was laying down in the grass and they were on that side. So it ended up killing 3 of them, of our guys, and others were wounded. So, you know, we thought, again, like other nights, this was the end. We're pretty much out there by ourselves. So the lieutenant crawled over and said, one of our guys is still alive. We need to get him on a helicopter. They're bringing in a medevac. And he said, take 2 of my fire team and form a half perimeter in the open area there to protect the helicopter, which I considered a suicide mission. So Slim, who had 11 months in, who ended up in the hospital with me anyway, I didn't pick him. I picked Philly, my best friend, and my backup man. Normally you use a platoon for that, but we had 3 people. So I put Philly in the best protected area, and then I put my backup man here, a little more protected, and then I took what I considered the worst area because it was more open, and figured I wasn't going to live till morning anyway. And there was like a shrub, so I became one with the shrub that night, and I hugged that. And during the night that helicopter came in, I never looked around. I figured they'd be coming up that hill any second, you know, and it came and they brought illumination on us, so I couldn't get out of that shrub because you could see me with the illumination. And so I was there in the morning. We all stayed in their positions. We survived the night, and so they took us and put us on another hill, and which would be pretty much my final hill. And so we had a whole company on this hill, which was pretty good because we felt pretty safe. Rather than having 30 guys, we've got three platoons out here, and so we're just kind of taking it easy and just laying around. Some people are getting to sleep. We weren't really digging holes then, but we felt pretty comfortable. And then we get the word that don't anybody move, the hill's booby trapped. And it turned out our platoon sergeant was sitting there around the commanders. They had other company commanders fly in, and they're all talking. He's sitting there playing in the dirt, and he finds out there's a mortar buried between his legs.
Oh my God.
So tells everybody, get down on your hands and knees, move all the dirt slowly, and look for other booby traps. So it turned out to be 2 more, which would have blown half where all the officers were. It would have blown that whole area off. So they had us move away and get further out and dig foxholes for the night. So we did that, and it seemed like I had a forward position that night, which is one of the least fun things to do. But anyway, we were able to, as it was getting dark, we had more people. So with the whole company, we had up to 3 people per hole. So you had 2 guys in that hole, and I'm going to be in that hole with them that night. So I'm going to sleep as long as they let me. So I lay down. My normal, when I do get a chance, I actually lay on flat ground, have a rock behind my head, and my rifles, M16, is right there. Got my hand on the trigger guard. I've got my bayonet in this hand, and I got a stick with my bandolier of ammunition there. So the whole thing is, if I have to get up, it's like that. I've got my ammunition, my bayonet, and my rifle. And I thought, I'm finally going to get some sleep. And as my head hits the rock, there was a pop. Now, one thing we learned in ITR was in VC grenade class. They showed you it's like the World War II German ones, except it wasn't as finely made. It's on bamboo, and then you got a grenade on the end, and you got wires on the bottom, and they showed us several times. You pull that wire and it goes pop. And that was the sound as I laid back and knowing I'm completely secure, and my head hit that rock and there was pop. And rifle, bayonet, bandolier, head first into the hole that 2 other people were trying to get to the bottom of. And all 3 of us, feet in the air, were digging to the bottom of that hole. And the grenades started hitting all around us. And just multiple, at least 10 explosions right around us. And the machine gunner was in the next hole. And we actually popped up quick enough to see him run without his machine gun. And the little lieutenant came running up a few seconds later and says, "We got to get that machine gun back. Come on." We get out of the hole, and all 3 of us say, maybe not. We climb back in the hole, and the lieutenant comes back. We're down in the hole. He doesn't see that we never left the hole. He comes back with the machine gun, and so decide that we need to send a patrol out. Well, it was just light. We could see everything. How did they get so close to us as soon as it got dark? So the one squad decided they were going to go fake an ambush and come back in. And they told us not to shoot them, which, don't report that. They're just a bunch of old people anyway, if they're still alive. But we did that. And then the lieutenant was asking, well, that was white tracers. Why is it? I got a memory block whether we had white or red tracers. The VC had the opposite anyway. But anyway, the wrong tracers they were seeing. I said, well, they had M16s. Okay. So in the morning, as soon as it's light, the lieutenant sends the corporal down and he tells me, we're all out of point man. You're the new point man for the company. You're going to lead the first patrol up to the top of 953, which I've done a lot of reading about lately, and that was a bad place to be. And 2 days before, a guy in a battle ended up getting a Congressional Medal of Honor. His name was Diaz in one of the other companies. Didn't know that. So at the time, I'm going to lead up the hill on a path, a well-beaten path. I mean, are there any booby traps on it? So as soon as we get up, we go past the machine gunner's hole, and there's, I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 unexploded grenades in it. So he was a good thing he got out of it. Because at least 10 grenades went off around us, but there were unexploded ones in his hole. Jeez. None of them made it to ours. So I lead the patrol up the hill, and I can't tell you now if it was at least a platoon size. Rather than just a squad size. But still, I'm at the front. I'm following the path up. I'm trying to see everything. It's all been defoliated, so when they asked me at the VA, have you ever been around Agent Orange? I said, yeah. The trees didn't have any leaves on them. It was summertime. So I went, I got up very close to the very top, and I see this bamboo hut, Hooch there. And so I hold everybody back, and I have my backup man come with me, and we're working our way slowly, listening for any sound. And I get up almost probably 10 feet from the side of it. It's just boom, bamboo. You don't realize it's a bunker. It just looks like a little hut, but it was kind of fresh. So I went along to the side of it rather than the end. Probably could second guess that now. Maybe I should have looked in. Anyway, I went around to the side of it, and I glanced on my peripheral vision. He said fluently. I saw my backup man was here. He's supposed to be back there. He couldn't keep me from getting shot, but he could keep me from getting killed. And I said, oh shit. Took a step to my left, and like somebody had a hot knife, they cut through that bamboo, and it was the AK on automatic, went across. First one hit me and hit him in both legs. And when it made that first pass and it already hit me, and I was still standing. I turned to unload, and that's when I found out my hamstrings were not there. I didn't know why, but I knew my leg was not doing anything. And I went down, but I went down backwards, and my head was just almost next to the bamboo. But then they came back, and then they went back, and they came back, and then it stopped for a little bit. And the corpsman came up, and he started ripping my pants where I got shot, and another corpsman had gone down to my backup man, and the lieutenant came up, and he got grenades out of my pouch, and he threw the grenades, and before he even did that, the slim and the tall guy in my squad, who we had survived the first time we got lost the squad, he was surrounding me with his M14, and that was another little funny thing. And I'm looking straight up, and he goes, bang, and everything stopped. The whole place got quiet. He said, shit, I'm on semi, and he flipped it, and he started. And then the lieutenant grabbed the grenades and threw them into the bunker, it turned out to be. So I was shooting over him when I was shooting. And then the corpsman, who got killed a few minutes later, he laid on top of me to protect me from the shrapnel. So I had kind of told you that, but I didn't finish it, and that's important part. So everybody's shooting in all directions, and I'm laying on the ground. My backup man's down. Our corpsman's cutting my pants leg off and trying to bandage my leg, and bullet had gone through one side and out the other. And so we're there a little bit. I get some shots, so now I'm feeling pretty good. So they get two guys up. We're going to get to the top of the hill, which isn't far, and they're carrying me up, and I'm singing. I don't know what I was singing, but I remember I was singing. We're doing fine. I'm going out of the bush, and we get about 20 feet, and they open up on us from another direction.
Jeez.
And my buddy on the left went left, and my buddy on the right went right, and I'm drugged up and no support, and I go boom. And I just remember my hands trying to get out before my face hit that ground, and it didn't. So I'm laying there face down with a mouthful of dirt and machine gun fire going in all directions, and I'm laying there until it stops, and then they get me back up, and I'm not singing anymore. And so they get me back to the top of the hill. Now I'm not feeling much other than I don't like this. And they got my backup man, and getting us up to this flat part of the top. And they've called in helicopters, medevacs, and Cobras, and we're right on the edge of a cliff. So I'm laying there, okay, this is a pretty good life. And the Cobras come. And when a Cobra raises its tail, it's getting ready to shoot its rockets, or its M79s. This one had an M79 launcher on it. And I'm looking at this guy in the face in that helicopter. I'm looking at that pilot, and he starts unloading with the 79s, and he's pointing straight at me. And when it raised that tail, everybody went that way. There was nobody but me and my backup man, and he was right next to a hole, so he pulled himself into a hole, and I'm flat on top. And first grenade's down there, second grenade's right here, third grenade's down here. The fourth one or fifth one are on top of me, and I'm trying to get to my rifle because I'm going to shoot that pilot in that helicopter, but I can't reach it. And the lieutenant runs up in front of me, and he starts waving. So it saved my life. So all there was smoke by then, the grenade, last grenade. So anyway, they pull him, they back off, and then they just cover us. Then I realize that we're the good guys. So then the Chinook comes to medevac. Okay, they tried to cut some trees, but they were too big for the machete. So they're just going to back the helicopter into the edge of the hill, and they're going to throw us off the mountain into the helicopter. Yeah. So I'm first. I got to enjoy the flying again. One guy had me by the legs, one by the arms, and they went 1, 2, 3, and they threw me off the mountain. And I grabbed the crew chief's legs. He was strapped in, and he grabbed the back of my shirt, and I'm like hanging off the mountain on the back of that thing. I'm not going to let go of his legs. If I'm going off that mountain, he's going. So he pulls me in, and then they do the same thing with my backup man, and they take us back to Baldy, and they take us in to like a MASH, it's like a MASH hospital, but I'd already been there. So they're working on this like real heavy duty. And it turned out because they were going to have a lot of people that day to work on. But the only funny thing after that was they decided that we needed to get to Da Nang, to real hospital. So that was the first time they got onto a Huey. I got to ride on a Huey. So they took me out there on the stretcher, and they laid me down, and all the blades were going. So they covered me with a towel. They put a towel over my head, and it happened to be somebody I knew was there, and he heard that I was on that stretcher out there, and he come running over, and he tears in his eyes, and he pulls the towel off, and I looked up, and he about fell down, and he said, "I thought you were dead." I said, "No, not yet." So when they were ready, then they took me and the backup man to Da Nang, and we got our surgeries, our first surgeries. So I just remember how that guy looked so bad, thought that I was dead.
Give him the scare.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happens next for you? So you have your surgery in Da Nang, and then do you stay there for a little while? Do they ship you off to Germany?
No, I was there a couple days, and then they I do remember when they wheeled me in before my surgery. A guy wheeled me to the side, doctor or assistant or whatever, nurse, male nurse, and he said, "You got any grass on you?" And I look, and I'm naked. I said, "What?" He said, so he said, "You're going to be back in the field in a couple of days, or a couple of weeks." And well, as far as I knew, I was going to be back in the field in a couple of weeks. So I said, "Great." So they wheeled me in, they did the surgery, and they gave me shots, and the doctor said, was cutting on me. I could tell he's cutting, but there was no pain. You cut it open took a stake out to get to the hamstrings, and they had to retie them together. Anyway, so he said, "You can go to sleep or you can stay awake, whatever you want to do." So he's working away, and he says, he calls another doctor, and I'm like listening to the other doctor. He says, "Look, it just missed the bone, and it just about got the artery." And I'm like, "I don't think I want to stay awake." So I went to sleep. And when I woke up, guy said, "Well, looks like you're going to be going home." I said, "Well, the other guy said I'll be going to the field in 2 weeks." He said it was just a scratch. He said, "Yeah, it was where it went in. You ought to see where it came out. You want to see that?" No. So they, after 2 or 3 days, they shipped me off to Japan. So I went to, as we always said, Yokosuka. I had a Japanese friend who always reminded me, it's Yokosuka. Yokosuka. It's not Yokosuka. So they shipped me there, and another interesting tidbit. We still have a little time for.
Oh yeah.
So I'm there. So the first week, I'm in the bed. There's like 45 beds in there, and as it turned out, I was one of the least wounded. So they wanted me ambulatory because they needed me to stretch, even though they were going to leave my leg cut open. They needed me to stretch those hamstrings.
Oh my God.
So anyway, after a couple of days of being comatose pretty much in that bed, they said, "Well, and I was like the third bed, and the doctor would come in the morning. First the nurse would come in, and she would look at everybody's wound. I'd pull my pajamas down, and he would look at my leg, but they would do that at every bed, and then the doctor would come in, and if there was something special, she would tell the doctor and they'd go look at that person. So like after the first couple of days, doctor said, well, we're going to get you on your feet. We want to see if you can stand. So by then I wasn't really feeling pain. Oh, but they had what they called Physoderm and Physohex, both they now call carcinogens. And they had my back and my leg open like that, and the nurse would scrub that with, I was sure it was a wire brush, put that Physoderm in there, and twice a day. Oh, that was so much fun. Everything hurt more than getting shot, I tell you. So anyway, so like the second, third day, so they got 2 attendants. They get me up on my feet, and I'm going, and I'm evidently it's showing on my face, and says, well, that shouldn't hurt that much. I said, not my leg, my foot, my ankle. It's killing me. It feels like it's like a knife. So they got me back up on my bed and pulled up my pajamas, and my ankle was about that big. And they thought, you got a broken leg. So they put me in a chair, and they wheeled me down and got x-rays, and it turned out it was a really bad sprain. Well, without the hamstrings, when I fell straight down on that leg, and nobody noticed. So anyway, but I was only in the hospital for a week. I'm in the bed for a week, but in the next couple days, I'm laying there, and a doctor comes running in with a phone. Now, I was there over a month, and I was the only person to get a phone call. So it didn't happen again. And it was like a shock, because everybody's, what's going on? What's going on? So the doctor plugs the phone in. He says, your congressman wants to talk to you. Wow. So I go, and I can't even think of his name now. He was a well-known Democratic congressman. He served for a long time. We were Republicans, so we didn't vote for him. But anyway, he gives me the phone, and I say, PFC Roberts. He says, John. I said, yes, sir. He says, I'm your congressman from Indiana. He said, how you doing? I said, I'm doing pretty well. I'm good. I'm back. I won't be going back to Vietnam. I'm in the hospital in Japan. Good. Yeah, I heard about that. He says, well, so he talked to me a few minutes. He says, well, I got your parents on the other line. And it turned out, we got to back up a little bit. A buddy of mine from back home, I went to school with, he was crew chief in the Army, not too far from Baldy. And he would make trips to Baldy. And we wrote letters back and forth. We never got to see each other. But when I got into the hospital, a nurse or a helper came over and said, would you like to write a letter? And for me to write a letter for you? And I said, sure. You want, how many letters you want? I said, well, I have 2. It's one to my buddy here in Pleiku or wherever he was, and one to my parents. So she writes the letters. Well, like everything goes right in the world, my buddy got his letter, and he was able to make a phone call from his helicopter base. My parents did not get their letter. I disappeared because I was writing every couple of days, and now they don't have a letter. So he calls his mom, who lives, we had 600 people in the town. You knew everybody, who called her and said, John got shot, and he's not in Vietnam. So my parents were already trying to figure out where I was. So she goes over and sees my parents and says, how's John doing? I heard he got shot. You can imagine. I couldn't imagine until years later, but I can imagine now. So
they must have been terrified.
They tried to go to the military. Military couldn't tell them. They tried to go to the Red Cross. They're just farm people. And they don't know any congressman, but they got a hold of this congressman's office and got him on the line. He says, sit by the phone. I'll be back to you within an hour. And somehow he found out where I was, got me on the phone. So after he talked to me a few minutes, he said, "Here, I want you to talk to your parents."
Wow.
So that was quite an experience, you know. And I told him, no. He said, "Should we come to Japan?" You know, they'd never been on an airplane. I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. They're going to stitch me up and send me home." So anyway, we had a nice talk, and I had the luxury of being the only person to get a phone call in that month, and nobody came in except one couple came in. And this is good to know, because every once in a while a candy striper from Japan would come in with books or something, but otherwise we were plagued, you know. Nobody wanted to see us. And there were lots of wards in that hospital with poor kids. And you know, I was 20. I was an old guy. And you had these kids that away from home and badly wounded. And I might add, one guy, once they got me up walking to where they'd give me a mop or have me do runs for people so I would keep exercising my leg. I went into the bathroom and I saw this other guy. Now, we had gone to try to reach this helicopter crew that had gone down not far from us, but before we got there, it exploded, and they called us back into the unit. Well, the pilot was the only one that survived it, and he was in the hospital. He was in my ward, and me and him turned out being the only two ambulatory people being there, except he had got shot through here, and it took half of his face off. So I went into the bathroom. He was on the other side of the partition in the ward, so I hadn't seen him. And he came in there, and he looked at me and said hello to me. I couldn't say anything. I backed up until I backed into a wall. I was looking at a skeleton, half of a skeleton, and he just smiled as much as he could, and he went over to the sink, and he looked in the mirror and said, "Hello, you handsome devil." And every morning he would do that. And they started putting grafts, you know, and they were starting rebuilding his face. But that first time scared me to death. But anyway, so in the first week, we had a guest, which was the only guest that came to see us. So this lady comes through. Her name was Gracie Lance. And she came by each one. She said, "How you doing, son? How you doing?" And she was just real bubbly and everything. And then Walter comes in, Walter Lance. All those cartoons. So anyway, I'm the third bed down, and he talks to this guy for a while, and Gracie's going around telling everybody, "Hey, good looking, how you doing?" and all this, you know. And Walter gets to mine. He says, "Where are you from, son?" I said, "Oh, I'm from Indiana." He yells out in there, and he says, "Gracie, I found your neighbor." So Gracie comes around and said, "Gracie's from Kokomo. She's from more northern Indiana." I said, "I'm from southern Indiana." So Gracie sat down there and talked to me for a while, and it came up about, and I can always say, I know this, a lot of people don't know this, and a lot of people do know it, but I know it because the person who did it told me. And I said, who does the for Woody Woodpecker? And she said, and Walter heard that from back there, and he said, "Well, Gracie did that." So it was our honeymoon. We rented a cabin up in the woods, and this woodpecker on our first night of our honeymoon kept pecking away at our cabin. And so in the shows, she did the Woody Woodpecker thing. I got it straight from Gracie and Walter. And they were as nice as they can be. And finally, at the end, they were there a long time. They said, "Well, we got other wards to visit." And we just thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And everybody was so supportive of everybody, because everybody was getting operations, and they'd come back and they'd be in bad shape. And everybody'd say, "How you doing, Bob? You doing okay over there?" "I'm doing okay." And after a while, I don't know if you saw the scars going that way in my leg where they put 13 clamps in it. Now, you got shot once, and it causes so much trauma, it's not a lot of pain. Well, you're healing up, you're laying here for a couple of weeks, and now they're going to stab you 26 times and put these 13 clamps in. And they got springs on them, and they do this, all 13 of them. And they go through the muscle. And they go through the muscle. And they just, so that was my night to keep the hospital, at least our ward, awake. And, you know, and it was always somebody's night to do it. And that was my night. And and it was always, even on the other side of the thing, how you doing over there, John? Oh, okay, I'm okay. So, it, you know, I just remember, I wish I knew every one of them's names, because they were all in bad shape. And even when I left, only 2 of us were ambulatory. And they had me walking around, but, you know, to go get stuff. And they fed us. We could have filet mignon twice a day if we wanted it. In Japan, they gave us all this great food. And they were so nice to us. And then I flew back on my birthday, December 12th, first to Alaska, and on a C-141. And then, even though I'd been walking all over the place, I couldn't sit, so they had to put me on a gurney. and everybody was pretty bashful. Of course, I was 20, so I was a little older. And I think I was about to turn 21 that day. And so they had this nurse on there, and she went around asking people if they wanted a massage, back massage. And everybody turned her down. She got to me, and I said, sure. So she gave me a back massage, and came back later and gave me another one. I was living high on the hog. And then we got back. Let me tell you, it took 2 weeks before we became old timers in the bush. You know, we landed, we saw these people, they looked 50 years older than us. 2 weeks later, the people coming in would look at us and say, they look 50 years older than us. So we were not nice people. We were not nice to outsiders. We were nice to other Marines that were in the same position we were in. So they flew us from Alaska to Scott Air Force Base. And it was like midnight. And they had kept a steak dinner ready for us. Worst steak I ever had. And we did not hesitate to let them know. I mean, they did this for us. We did not appreciate them doing this for us, because we were old timers at 2.5 months, you know, in country, that we gave them all kinds of hell over it. And within an hour, they had us a plane. We were not staying in Scott. So I went to Memphis Naval Hospital, where I'm going to put this politely, they treated us like crap. And you would thought they would have treated us good. We're back. It was like people from World War II, the old Marines, that they really treated us bad in Memphis Naval Hospital.
What do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, we should have been the ones they treated well. And I wasn't in a hospital bed then, and the guys with me weren't, but we were on light duty. I could hobble along. I was clamped up and everything. But they just gave us hell every time they got around to it. And we avoided them. We stayed in our quarters as much as we could to stay away from other people, but we'd have to go read the duty list and what we were supposed to do that day. And for some reason, and then after a month there, you had an early out program. I don't know if you're aware of the early out program, but you've been in Vietnam, you're not going to go back. The Army, the military doesn't need you. Congress passed the bill that lets you get out. You know, you're wounded, you're never going to be back in. So, but it ran out. The bill had run out. Now, what we found out later, the bill was going to be reinstated the next day. When it was my time to go and get my 30-day leave after Vietnam leave. Now, if the early out program is in, I go home and stay there. That's a good deal. But they didn't tell us that the new bill was going to pass the next day. Wow. So they came in with paperwork. You have to sign in for your next duty station. It's not revocable. You sign in, you go take your 30 days, and then you go to your next duty station. And they treated us bad enough that we did not want to go to the next duty stations. So we were pretty irritated when we found out that they had rooked us there. So signed out for the new duty station, and this was the next to the last day. So on the list, I had mopping the main hallway and buffing it. So I get out there and I mop, and my hair's half this length. Well, this is when everybody had long hair, 69, 70. So they Major caught me in the hall while I'm mopping, tells me go get a haircut, get a Marine haircut. I've only got one more day and I can go home and have a little bit of hair on my head. Next day, I got mopping in the main hallway again. I thought, how am I gonna get away with this? So I mopped all day, and I'm keeping one eye looking at the doors. You know, I've got to duck in. I know where the closets are, and I'm doing all this, and I'm all through taking the mop and the bucket back to the closet. I open the double doors, and there's the major, and there's the colonel. Oh, no. And I'm standing there, and that colonel looks at the major, says, this Marine needs a haircut. And the major said, I told him to get a haircut yesterday. And the colonel says, get him a Marine haircut. And taking. So I took the mop in. The major took me to the barber.
Oh boy.
He said, shave it. They shaved my head. So, and not only that, I had to go to a new duty station after that. I didn't want to go. And this is still part of the story. I got my month home. I don't go anywhere because you don't dare go out. That's a military person. You know, my close friends were still my close friends, but anybody else, you were in the service. You were in Vietnam. Terrible thing to be. So they gave me a ticket to go to Cherry Point, North Carolina. And it's in my book, my revised book that I did this year. I didn't know where I was. So I went to Cherry Point. Okay, just one more month. I've got a month in, and then I can get out because the early out program's in. So I have to stay in another month after I do that paperwork. So, okay, I'm in Cherry Point. I go in there and I'm doing the paperwork. It says, okay, what are we going to do with you? It's just easy job. We need somebody at this base, which I can't remember the name. It's in my book because I never knew where it was until less than a year ago. And we need somebody there. So they put me on a bus, and I hand the paperwork to him, and he looks at it, and there's several people on this bus, and we go out in the pine forest and down 2-lane roads into nowhere, and kept going, and finally he stops and he says, gives me my paperwork. He says, go to that guard at the guard check. I see this big fence and a guard in woods. Don't know where I am. I don't even know which direction I went to get there. So I go to that guard gate and give them my paperwork, and you know, all I want to do is get this month out of the way. You know, they've been treating us like hell for the last month in Memphis. Go in there, and he says, okay, go to that building there and report to the corporal at the first desk. So take my paperwork there, and I'm doing this. All I want to do is just do my guard duty, whatever I got to do, and get out of here. So I go in there, and he's doing my paperwork, and okay, everything's fine. This is just normal. And the first sergeant comes out. and he looks over and he looks at me. What's your name? So I tell him, Private Roberts, sir. He looks at me and says, tells the corporal, sending in to me when you're finished. So, oh no, that means I'm going to be stuck with somebody of high authority again. So we finish, and the corporal says, okay, that building over there, you can just barely see, that's the, I've gone blank again. Anyway, that's where you're going to sleep. There'll be other people, they'll tell you where you go for breakfast and all. That's great. I don't have to go to the first sergeant. Mistake. I go over there. Supposed to be back here. He tells me be back here at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I come back there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm doing good. I got away with it. First sergeant comes out. He looks at me, and he looks at that corporal. He says, I told you yesterday, you send this man to me as soon as you're finished with him. What's going on? You send him back to the base area. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. So I go into his office, and I'm standing in front of his desk, and he shuts the door. He tells me, shut the door. So he asks me a few questions, and then he tells me, sit down. So I sit down. I know I'm in trouble. I don't know what I'm going to do, but he said, look, this is my base. Don't let anybody tell you that it's anybody else's. This is my base. You belong to me. He says, but you've been wounded in Vietnam. You probably had to put up shit with since then. So what I'm going to do, I need a helper. He said, sometimes when I'm in here, I need somebody to answer the phone. I'll give you some paperwork to take to the corporal. But in the mornings, first thing you come in, you got to be here before 8. You got to go into the office down there, and you've got to clean that desk. The young pilots come in here at 8:30, and I want that room clean when they come in. And it turned out to be, it was a World War II aircraft carrier training base. It actually had a catapult and a resting gear in the woods. And everything's surrounded by woods. And so the pilots would come in, they'd go out there. They were just young officers. They didn't care about me, which was a good thing. And so I'd come in, I'd do that. I'd make sure everything was spick and span. I'd go in, the lieutenant or the first sergeant, he would tell me do this, or hey, why don't you sit down? Why don't you go in the back room there and rest a little bit? I'd go back there, and first couple of weeks went great. Third week, this lieutenant that was being punished was sent there, and he was the PT officer. So everybody that left that base was going to have to pass the PT test. So I saw the paperwork on it, and I went and told the first sergeant. I said, I can't run, and I can't walk a long distance. He said, oh yeah, that's right. He says, well, it's set up to where they say down here he's such a case. He's going to be a pain. He said, well, what you need to do is when he comes in at 4 every afternoon and gets everybody. Everybody has to do this but you and me. He said, I want you to go back in my back room and you stay in there until he's gone, and make sure you don't get caught going back to while he's running all these people and everything. And he was not a fun person. I could hear him talking, but I'd always make sure I'd go hide in the woods. And so for the rest of my time there, I would do this every day. And I was getting away with it. And the first sergeant was great. I got all kinds of benefits. He never once said a bad word to me. And his dad came in one day, and we spent the afternoon walking around, and it was just, it was good. It was the first decent person other than my lieutenant in Vietnam. So finally, this is almost the end of my story. Finally, the lieutenant, or it's my last day. I have to have 16 people sign my sheet before the 16th is the guard at the gate. I'm out of the military as soon as that 16th man does it. But it's in order. You have to do it in order. The barber, the guy that ran our little PX that had a jukebox and a pool table, and you could buy a beer. It was a very small PX. And the guy in charge of it, in the galley. Everybody had to sign it. I went all around, and almost at the end, the next to the last person would be the first sergeant. The third from the last person would be the gunnery sergeant in that building 50 feet away. I've never seen the gunny in a month. Yet he was right there. Well, evidently him and the first sergeant were not best buddies because they did not get together. So I went to the gunny. I'm almost there. The gunny, I go walk into the gunny's office, go up to his desk, handing the paperwork. He looks at me. He had a neck about this big around. You figure he was either in Korea or World War II, old Marine, you know. And he looked at me and he says, "Who the hell are you?" I said, "PFC Roberts, sir." "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, he said, "I don't know you." He said, "What are you doing here? What have you been doing on this base?" Well, he saw it was a paper that was signed me out. I said, "How long you been on the base?" I said, 1 month. "What have you been doing?" "Working for the first sergeant." "Yeah, but what have you been doing? You're not on my PT list. You're not on my guard duty list. You should at least be doing guard duty." "What have you been doing here?" I said, "Working for the first sergeant." He took my paperwork, he put them in his in basket. This was Friday. He says, "Come back Monday. I'm going to find out what you've been doing here." I mean, I'm almost a civilian. I go over to the first sergeant. He said, "Well, have you finished your paperwork?" I said, "No, first sergeant." He said, "Why not?" I said, "The gunny wouldn't sign my paperwork." "Why?" I said, "He wants to find out what I've been doing here." "Did you tell him you work for me?" I said, "Yes, first sergeant." He says, "Go get that first sergeant, or get that gunny to sign your paperwork." That was the last thing I wanted to let's go back over there. I go back over there. That gunnery's on the phone. I walk in the door. He slams the phone down, grabs my paperwork. He scribbles something on it, throws all his paperwork. I mean, I'm getting all this paperwork while it's in the air. And I turn around, and right when I get to the door, he says, "If I ever see you again, you son of a bitch, I'll kill you." I'm out the door. I go right 50 yards to the first sergeant. I walk in. The first sergeant's sitting there with his feet up on his desk with his arms like this. And he says, "Did the gunny sign your paper?" I said, "Yes, first sergeant." He said, "I thought he would." He said, he took the paperwork. He said, "Give me your paperwork." Gave him the paperwork. He signed his name and he handed it to me. He says, "Oh, get off of my base, civilian." And I went to the, now we're in the middle of nowhere. I went to the gate. The guard took it. He signed the paperwork, opened the gate, let me out. It's a country road, no traffic. And all I could think about is that gunny. And I start down the road, and they told me town was that way. And I started down the road as quick as I could. And this farmer on a pickup stops and he says, "Where are you going, son?" I said, "Going to Cherry Point." "Well, I'm going that way. I'll take you." So I got in. I kept looking at that back window, thinking he was going to catch up with me, and I'd be get off my base, civilian. That was the nicest thing he ever said to me. That was my whole military career. You know, what I really learned in it was that you need all the training you can get. They can't train you hard enough for war. We're not talking about flying drones, sitting in an office, doing even though most of the military is behind the scenes, you know, warehousing and all that, the person that's got to be out there in the field has to be a Superman.
Yeah.
It's they need to treat people better that come back with, you know, seriously injured. I saw terrible things in the hospital that shouldn't be. And as far as liking the military, I wouldn't take nothing for it. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I would. You know, if they called us up, you know, and everybody I know, you know, fresh out of a hospital bed, if they said, "We need you now," you go back. all that, of course, all that training you couldn't do because you didn't realize you could do it back then. And it was not easy. And I mean, these people that are out there doing it now, it's amazing what they're able to do, but they're not having to crawl around in the mud all night. You know, they don't spend 2.5 months trying to find a rock to put behind your heads so you can put that towel over your head to keep the mosquitoes from eating you up at night. And the people, what's the shame with me, I don't know any of the people I was with. They're either dead or, you know, I didn't know their names. There's no way to look them up. I wish there was one of these where you could look up and say, okay, these people were wounded on this day. Give me their names, because then I can look up some people. I can go to the wall and see the nine that were killed, but it couldn't be better people. And like the guy that I dared not hit, I would trust him, you know, with every part of my being, you know. I would trust any of them. I was a little irritated at the one that walked up on me when I got shot. But I really can't say that about the others. I mean, I love these people. And I've got a friend who lived close to me in Indiana. We were not friends. He lives in southern Georgia now. He lived down here in Florida for a while. He's in pretty bad shape. He was recon. I know what recon was. We were offered, would you, after boot camp, you want to go recon? And the only thing I think of, am I crazy? You know, it's 10 times harder than what we did. And you're out there by yourself, and he's in bad shape. Sorry if you hear this. He knows he's in bad shape. But I told his wife, I hadn't seen him in years, but I told his wife when I first came down here, I stopped to see him, and she was also a Marine. And I said, you know, me and Steve were not friends. You could easily say the opposite. I said, we weren't friends till we became brothers. And I love him like a brother, and I know he loves me like a brother. But I could say when we were in high school, we probably hated each other. So, but I know what he went through, and I don't appreciate any more than a Marine than a recon Marine. So, and you know, I know Army people the same way. They beat the bush like we did. You know, they were the same people, and we just were in different areas. So, but women in the field combat thing, my daughter, I mean, she was not crawling around in the bush like we were, and you didn't need that because you had enough problems to worry about. But she was in the middle of the desert in Afghanistan, taking sniper practice, and outshot me when she got home. Thank you very much, Navy. So, I mean, the lessons you learn are invaluable. Being in the service, being in any part of it. So it's just you would go and do it again, and feel sorry for the ones that haven't had any interest in it.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you told some pretty incredible stories today, and to hear that you would do it again, if you had to do that, it's incredible. So,
can I tell you one more thing?
Yeah.
I was there 2.5 months. People were there more than one tour.
Yeah.
You imagine the stories they got to tell. We literally, I didn't tell you this, maybe I did over the phone. We literally thought every other unit around us had it a lot harder than us. And you can just imagine what their stories were. We knew they were in these battles. We knew they were here. We knew they were there. Why I'm glad I'm not them. And you can tell from my story, we had a pretty rough life, but I'm glad I wasn't them. We were like Disney World.
Some kind of Disney World. Wow. That's fantastic. This has been an honor, and I appreciate your time today. Appreciate you welcoming us into your home, and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much for coming.